Hey there, I'm Dr. Bob Stelter, pastor of Faith Lutheran Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. When I say Lutheran, a lot of folks don't even know what a Lutheran is here in the South. We trace our roots back to Martin Luther. Luther was a monk in the Middle Ages in Germany. He was a monk who tried to be a good monk. If they say, be on your knees in your cell for 5 hours of praying, Luther would do it for 10 hours of praying. So Luther tried to earn God's approval through his works and through his Bible reading and through his fasting. But he realized that he could never earn God's approval because there's always something that keeps us from being perfect in the eyes of God. So Luther started reading the scriptures and interpreting them, and he kind of got stuck in the letters of Paul. Paul, who writes a lot about justification by God's grace, saved by grace through faith. And it was in the book of Romans where Luther kind of had his aha experience. He understood that we are saved not by our actions, not by our works and our deeds, but we are saved by God's grace, what God has already done for us through Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. That we are saved by grace through faith. And that would be the theology of the Lutheran Church of being saved by grace. If you know much about Luther, you remember that he was a parish pastor, and in 1517, he had some complaints with the church. So on All Hallows Eve, he posted his 95 theses, his 95 issues with the church on the church door at Wittenberg. That was the place where people would post notices about marriages or sales or funerals or whatever. So he posted these 95 issues he had with the church, mainly that the church had strayed, that the church had forgotten the essence of the gospel, that we are saved by grace through Jesus' sacrifice. So Luther had these complaints against the church, got him in all sorts of hot water. He eventually had to be hidden. He had to hide out. The church authorities and even the legal authorities were out to kidnap him and maybe even kill him. He would not recant or take back his complaints with the church. So out of Luther, there was a split, a schism in the church. And Luther, it was never his idea to split the church. In fact, he wanted to reform the church, to heal the church, not ever to split it. I'm sure that broke his heart to see the church split like that. The name Lutheran was actually given to the followers of Luther by their enemies. That was a term of derision. Oh, you Lutherans, oh, you followers of Luther. Well, that's still our name. That really doesn't describe us or say who we are, but we are Lutherans in the pattern of Luther. A good Lutheran is always one who asks questions, who wants to reform and fix things. Well, the movement moved fast. There were already people who really grabbed onto what he said. Parish priests in other places, the people in the different churches. But what helped most of all was this is at the time of Gutenberg and the movable printing press. So Luther wrote prolifically. He would write sermons. He would write what's called tracts. So the Reformation spread like wildfire quickly because there was information, there was literature that could be spread. So within years, there was already a group of reformers lining up with Luther. And, once that Reformation started, there were other reformers. You had Zwingli, you had the Calvinists, just all kinds of different splits at the church. Once the church split from the Roman tree, there were all these other branches splitting after that. I don't think people were already fostering those thoughts. I think the people were doing kind of what the church wanted. They were a little bit like sheeple. The church says this is how you act out your faith, this is how you get salvation. And I don't think people really questioned it much. It took someone like Luther to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. Hey, we're veering from the truth. And once people heard that, they kind of had their own revelation. At the time, the church was selling indulgences, which were a way to have your sins forgiven by buying a slip of paper. And the reason they were doing that is they were building St. Patrick's Basilica in Rome. As a pastor, what a great fundraiser to sell forgiveness of sins. But Luther said, you can't buy that. You can't earn that. Forgiveness comes only through faith. So people were willing to play by the rules because that was the only church at the time and those were the only rules. But once Luther spoke up and said, hey, we've strayed, or hey, we're not keeping the truth anymore, we've veered from the central message of the faith. I think once he said that, a lot of people went, he's right, we have veered. Let's get back on track. Let's fix the church.